Bonjour. Bienvenue à San Geneviève. Buenos dias und benvenido a Santa Genevieve. Guten Tag und willkommen nach Santa Genevieve. Welcome to St. Genevieve. Today we are having, let's see, this would be our 46th Jour de Fête. It started in 1966 and we've had it every year except for the flood year of 1993. It's a time to celebrate St. Genevieve's heritage, its culture, its food, its music. It's a time for families to come together and a time for our visitors to experience Missouri's first city. So to start off today's celebration, we'd like to have the French Marines from Fort Deschartres and representatives from the St. Genevieve Militia to do the honors with the flag. And we'd like to have the band, our St. Genevieve German band, play the national anthem, and Miss Rosie Huey will sing the national anthem. Thank you. I'd like to now introduce Mayor Richard Greminger to give you the official city welcome. Thank you. I'd like to now introduce Mayor Richard Greminger to give you the official.
Good morning, now that everybody's woke up. Welcome to St. Genevieve, and I'd especially like to welcome the Waymar, Layton, and Piku families. Great to have you all here. Sounds like we're going to have a great weekend for weather, and enjoy the town, enjoy all of the booths and food that we have, and again, thank you for coming, and have a good weekend. Thanks, Rick.
I'd like to now introduce Brenda Hayden of the Jour de Fête Committee, who's going to give their welcome.
Thank you. On behalf of the Jour de Fête Committee, we'd like to welcome everyone to St. Genevieve. We're supposed to have a great weekend. Hope you stick around for the whole weekend. So, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Brenda. I don't know if you know it, but it takes a lot of work to get ready for this event through the year. And Brenda and the committee and Joan Knoll, and all of those have done a marvelous job of getting ready. I'd like to now introduce Bev Foff, who's going to introduce this year's families that are being honored with Project Pioneers. This is another great Jour de Fête tradition that's gone on since 1989, and they do great genealogy work and history work on our families. So Bev?
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Project Pioneer is an organization that was started in 1989 to honor the German and French families of St. Genevieve. This year's families are the French PQ and the German Weimar and the English Leighton. So we're going to start with the French. John PQ is the son of Adrian Leighton and Margaret Helen Clary PQ, and grandson of Roy Leon and Millie Ellen Leighton PQ. He is the fourth child of 2 brothers and 6 sisters. John is 61 years old and married to his wife Sandy for 42 years. Their anniversary was actually yesterday. They have 2 daughters and 2 sons and 5 grandchildren. He is retired from Chrysler and now works for the city of St. Genevieve in the Parks Department. He has been active in the Boy Scouts and coaching ball when his kids were in school, and is now a mentor in the Perryville schools. He has always enjoyed working on cars and doing some gardening when he can.
Thank you, Bev. Thanks for coming. Okay. Well, I'm talking about the history of the Picous they started in Brittany, France, and they moved to New Orleans, probably for better opportunities. It all started with Charles Picou, who brought his family from the Brittany area of France to New Orleans around September of 1720. From records in New Orleans, they made a living as clerks, merchants, and tradesmen. Urbain Picou was listed as being a master carpenter, a trait that was passed down through many generations. Joseph Leon Picou was the one who started the Picous on the way to Missouri and Kaskaskia by sending their son, Theodore Zenon, to St. Mary's Seminary in Perry County for higher education. Well, he either fell in love with the county or a girl, and decided after he'd gone back to Louisiana for a while that he liked Perry County better. He first settled at Bailey's Landing before moving to Claryville, which is across from Chester, Illinois. At Claryville, he became a school teacher, justice of the peace, and a merchant. His first wife, Mary Delasue, gave him a son named Theodore Everest, which everybody else called Tobe Picou. He was my great-grandfather. Well, Tobe worked first as a clerk in Claryville, then did other odd jobs until he rented some land on the Kaskaskia Commons and made his home there. He married Edith Cedars, and they had 12 children, but only 6 survived, one being my grandfather, Roy Leon Picou. Roy Leon married Millie Ellen Leighton of St. Mary, and they eventually settled on land adjacent to his father's on Kaskaskia, where they raised their own family, which included my father, Adrian Leighton Picou. There's much more to the story, but you will have to come down to the Patkey room, where you will see the genealogy, stories, and pictures of many of the Picous I have not mentioned here. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Joe Weimar is going to be our representative speaker for the Leighton and the Weimar families. Joe is the youngest child of Wadsworth Washi Weimar and Virginia Ann Leighton. Joe was an elementary school teacher for 14 years. 10 years ago, he was hired by Pearson Scott Forsman Publishing, where he is currently employed as an editorial manager in the Literacy Development Department.
Sorry about that. We were up there saying, oh, wow, we really are related, aren't we, with the Leightons and the Picous. So anyway, well, good morning, everyone. And thank you for me for joining us for Jour de Fête and the annual Project Pioneer opening ceremonies. As Bev said, I'm representing the Waymeyers and the Layton families, although, as we just found out, it can truly be said that I'm representing all of the families honored this year because my father was a Waymeyer and my mother was a Layton who was related to the Picous through marriage. But today I'm only speaking for the Waymeyers and the Laytons. My branch of the Waymeyer family begins with my great-great-grandfather, Herman Henry Waymeyer. Herman Waymeyer was born January 3rd, 1836 in Schwarzenmold, Prussia. He immigrated from Germany when he was 20 with his older brother, William. The brothers settled in St. Louis where they engaged in the drayage business. That's the transport of cargo between ports or rail ramps and shipping docks. He married Mary Weiss in St. Louis on February 28th, 1862. Herman and Mary had one child, Edward, and their family eventually moved to Nashville, Illinois. Edward married Loretta Kelly and had 5 children, Ruby, Vern, Richard, Benny, and my grandfather, Edward Waymeyer. Grandpa Waymeyer moved to St. Genevieve in about 1917 or early 1918 to work as an agent on the M&I Railroad, just up the street from here. Both the M&I and the Frisco Railroads would play a big role in the Waymeyer and the Layton families. Grandpa married my grandmother, Myrtle Herzog, in January of 1918 and had 10 children. And I'm going to announce all the family names, but one thing that most people here in St. Genevieve probably know is that on the Waymeyer side, they had a lot of nicknames too. And so I'm naming their real name and the nicknames also. So we had Vernenda, Edward, better known as Bud, Elaine, Wallace, better known as Weasel, Doris, Myrtle, or Aunt Mertz, Gladys, also known as Yeti, James Cayley, Joyce, and my father, Wadsworth, better known as Washi. Dad married my mother, Virginia Ann Layton, and had 6 children, which brings us to me and the Layton family. John Layton Sr. was a native of England, born in the 1730s. Now, whereas many family names came from occupations, the name Layton originated from several small villages or estates in the area. Eventually, John immigrated from England to Maryland. In the late 1700s, John Layton then moved westward and settled in Nelson County, Kentucky, which is now Marion County. John and his 3 sons, Bernard, John Jr., and Ignatius, obtained Spanish land grants in the Louisiana Territory, and in 1803 immigrated to and would eventually help found what would become Perry County, Missouri. John married Monica French and had 1 child, Louis Layton. Louis married Amelia Anna Miles in 1838. The 3rd child of Louis and Amelia was Louis William Layton. Louis married Veretta Meade, whose 7th child was my grandfather, Bernard L. Pete Layton. Grandpa Layton married my grandmother, Hetty Self, and had 6 children, Veretta, Harry, Bud, Louis, Clyde, better known as Sonny or CJ, Thomas, and my mother, Virginia, which now brings us full circle. So, in conclusion, through our research in this opening speech, have we covered every Waymeyer and Layton out there? Obviously not. But that doesn't mean those unnamed family members are lost to us, not by a long shot. Their ancestry runs through our blood, just as it has for generations. It shows up in those mannerism, habits, and speech patterns all of my family has. We are a living tribute to all of those who have gone before. I have been told several times that I need to research my family tree. I now know why this is so important. Knowing your past grounds you while giving you a sense of being a part of something bigger. We all are stops along a line that has been going on for centuries and will continue to grow long after we're all gone. We all are truly living history. Thank you.
Now we're going to have the speakers pick the names for next year.
The German is the Dunzy family.
The French is Delasso.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we need to give a big hand to the Project Pioneers people. Oh. Since 1989, they've done about 25 now, or 26 French families, 23 German families, and two English and 2 African American. And as an avid genealogist, I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the hard work that they and their committees do to help us, as we genealogists say, living in the past lane. So, we'll now have our German band, which is a part of our St. Genevieve Municipal Band, play a couple of songs for us.